My name is Gabby Olson, and I'm a member of the Student Executive Committee for Penn State Startup Week, powered by PNC. Let me say a few words about our next speaker, Steph Rado Taormina. Stephanie is the founder, designer, and CEO of the lifestyle brand Have Some Fun Today. As a fine artist and interior designer who began her career in fashion over 30 years ago, Steph's creativity and artistic vision have always been at the heart of her work and art. The title of Steph's talk is Have Some Fun Today, A Startup Journey. Please help me welcome Steph Rado Taormina.
Thank you, Gabby. Hello, everybody. I'm so happy to be in Happy Valley. Last time I was here was 4 years ago when my daughter Allegra graduated. And looking back, I too was a graduate of Penn State. I graduated in 1987 with a degree in communications and advertising with a minor in business. So, a little background for all of you about my brand, Have Some Fun Today. It all goes back to the saying that my late father would use every day. Now, being that my dad was the most positive person I ever knew, at the end of every conversation, instead of saying goodbye, he would tell you to have some fun today. Have Some Fun Today, HSFT, is a lifestyle and fashion brand founded in 2014 by me. The brand was named after 4 words my father shared with me throughout my life. Have some fun today. Guided by his words, his memory, and a desire to make the ordinary extraordinary, HSFT's apparel and accessories inspire customers to keep life playful, chic, and fun. It can be spotted on A-listers like Eva Longoria, Reese Witherspoon, Halle Berry, Kate Hudson. My thing just went off. I don't know what just happened, excuse me. Find where I was again. Okay, Eva Longoria. HSFT is designed for wearers who live life to the max and seek joy in everything. By prioritizing the use of sustainable materials, we ensure that it leaves a positive impact on the planet as well as your closet. Have Some Fun Today is also proud to partner with local mental health initiatives and charities to further spread the joy of positivity in the community. Today I will be talking about the following key points. Defining your startup plan. I'll share some best practices to set yourself up for success. Your idea, what it is you are planning to bring to life. The brand architecture, which is developing your business plan. The to-do list, checking off all the components of creating your startup. The platforms, selecting the appropriate platforms for how your business will be accessed and housed. Gathering your team, finding the talent to bring your company to life. Brand culture, defining your mission and how you want the world to see you. Resilience, how to cultivate the grit needed to run your startup. I need a drink. Although I'm here today to share with you the story of how I started the brand Have Some Fun Today, I'd also like to leave you with truly helpful knowledge of the most important things you will need to know in creating your own startup, as well as helpful tactics for being resilient through the ups and downs you are bound to face. And I also want to assure you that even though, I'm sorry, my computer keeps on going off, even though you may feel loads of pressure right now to get going with whatever it is you're going to be doing for what you think is the rest of your life, you really do have so much time. This is really a time to gain knowledge and experience that will fund your later ability to put all your know-how to play when the timing is right. I'm going to show you a little clip that was done 4 years ago. And it was done by a young filmmaker because he wanted to use his film talents to kind of create a story, a video story. We call them vlogs. And this was part of our YouTube channel. So I just want to start with this clip.
My name is Steph Rado Taormina. I'm 51 years old, and I'm the founder, the designer, and the CEO of Have Some Fun Today.
Okay.
Have Some Fun Today is a lifestyle brand. We design t-shirts, hats, tote bags, giftware. I conceptualized the brand after the passing of my late father. His mantra were the words, "Have some fun today." Almost anyone who came into contact with my dad would part by saying, "Have some fun today." I was sitting in this spot 2.5 years ago, and I had a vision of a painting because I'm also an artist, and I visualized the painting, "Have some fun today." Snowballed immediately. I was like, I want to do a beach tote, a cool t-shirt. I like to work out a lot. I want to do a cool shirt that I can work out in. I was so excited. I called my mom right away. Like, I'm going to start this brand. My name is Steph Rado Taormina.
Sorry about that. Okay, so just went off again. Sorry about that. Okay, so let's talk about the light bulb moment. For me, it was 9 years ago on a July morning, a few months after my father passed away. The sun was shining. I was having my morning coffee. In the middle of doing my morning rituals, I started to daydream. Very common practice for me as an artist. And I had a vision that would change the rest of my life. As I sat there, I saw the graphic of Have Some Fun Today in my mind. It was in the form of a painting at first. I saw the t-shirt, the tote bag, right here is the tote bag, the pillow, the mug, the hat. And I knew then that I was going to bring a brand to life from my father's legacy. And I felt with all certainty in that moment that my life's purpose was contained in this new idea. And after the initial idea, I created a plan for what I believed I needed to do. I started with designing the pieces by getting them out of my head and onto paper. I designed the graphic and the logo that was going to be on everything. And then I went to work finding ways to make each of the pieces for the initial creation of the brand. Simultaneously, I had to decide on a name for the brand and get all the social handles and the domain of the website to work together. And since the main focus of the brand strategy was the phrase, "Have some fun today," we also had to protect our idea by trademarking the phrase. Now, although my initial vision was passionate, and I had all the tools to manifest the brand, I do not suggest going into a startup without a well-thought-out overall plan. I mean, I literally, in 5 minutes, decided I was going to create a company. Usually, there's a lot more planning that goes into it before someone decides to do that. Most startups begin with a formal business plan and have spent plenty of time identifying all the key pieces of their strategy before they ever press play. And even though it took an additional 7 months of work before our brand officially launched, I decided to take my followers on a unique journey with me of building a brand from the first day I had the idea until we launched the first website, and for the past 8.5 years of building the brand community. So I think it's so important, obviously, to identify your why. Why do you want to create a startup? For me, my why was really clear. I believe the world needs this message. I believe the world has a happiness problem. When people have fun on a regular basis, they lead happier lives. My supposition was that if I can create a brand of functional and beautiful lifestyle pieces that bring awareness to the world around having fun, I could help make the world a better and happier place. So really think about your why. That reason for taking action on such a major scale has got to be incredibly strong, because there will be so many reasons to quit down the road. If your why is strong enough, it could be the one superpower that keeps you moving forward. For all the people here who believe that entrepreneurship is where you want to be, but you don't have a clear vision yet for what that is, I'd recommend thinking about all the things that you are drawn to. And for all of those, and for those of you who know what your what already is, I'd urge you to really get in there and be able to articulate it clearly and with as few words as possible. For me, ever since I was a young girl, I was into art, design, fashion, interiors, and also how things, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. Sorry. And how things were presented to us via magazines, hence my advertising major in college. For me, starting my sixth business in one of these related fields was a no-brainer. So for the record, to share with you, I started in my mid-20s. After I went to Parsons, I started a dress line. Then came a bedding line. Then came the addition of loungewear to that. And then in my 30s, after the birth of my two daughters, Allegra and Gabby, I started an interior design business. And a few years after that, I added fine art to the business model. And then in my 40s, I was juggling design and art as my main focus. But as I went through some personal challenges and started to do a lot of spiritual work on myself, I felt that something more was out there for me. But I didn't know what that was until life showed me a way to combine all of my talent and experience with the creation of Have Some Fun Today. I believe that when you spend time thinking about what lights you up and you trust your instincts, you can see a little clearing of a path that lies before you. But if you aren't perceptive and know how to hone the skills of awareness, you could miss the path altogether. Defining your what is a skill and an awareness that takes knowing yourself. A great book, which I wanted to share with you guys, which I have just discovered, is called The Creative Act, A Way of Being. I am halfway through this book. It is by Rick Rubin, the founder, one of the co-founders of Def Jam Records. And I have a suspicion that this book is going to be a cult classic which kind of explores creativity. And I think it's just a great book for you to pick up if you are someone who is looking for creating something special in the world. Highly recommend. Okay, so let's talk about the how. There are many ways to tackle the how, as we've seen by all the companies that are, existing in the world. And I am sure that the what and the why will have a lot to do with your how. To be able to see the end result is a special skill that some of us have. And I am told by others, it is one of my superpowers that I was able to see intrinsically what the brand Have Some Fun Today could be. I always thought it was just being a visual artist, that I could see what anything should be, whether it was a garment, an advertisement, a room, a piece of furniture, a fabric, a piece of art, a handbag, or really anything material. I always saw the finished piece in my mind before I ever set to work on anything. And that is my superpower. Okay, so let's talk about a startup checklist. Trademarks, the legal registration of your intellectual property needed to protect your idea. And that, for me, has come into play several times, I will say. So I'm glad I've done that. The domain for the website, check availability before you begin, because getting the domain and the social handles to coordinate together can be tricky. And I'm sure it's getting trickier as, brands are formed in this world. Is it a product or a service? Where and what you produce or where you provide services are necessary to plan out before you begin. Labels and packaging, how your product is represented. Accounting, things that you don't think of as you're into your craft and you're a designer or you're, anything that you're doing. A lot of times other areas we don't see as being that important. Accounting is very important to set up how you will be doing your accounting and will save you so much time and aggravation later if you do it right from the get-go. Fulfillment and logistics. These two are essential steps depending on what it is you're creating. Overhead. Simple but very important to understand all the costs that will actually be part of what you're going to be doing, from your internet providers to printers, computers, and where you're running your business. And there's so many other components to that. Capital for funding. Knowing all the costs ahead of time. Can you fund your startup, or do you need to find capital before you begin? Another important thing. Your business plan. Laying out a comprehensive plan for getting your product or service to market will be necessary to be able to share your idea with people who you'll be going to for help, such as when you seek capital for a line of credit. The creation of the appropriate business entities. How you decide to incorporate will also affect your liability and tax burden. Some examples are an LLC or a sole proprietor. My company is an LLC, a limited liability corporation, and it's really best to consult a lawyer and an accountant to determine what is best for you. Advisors, people who can serve as advisors to whatever it is you're starting. They are people with experience and people that you can go to when you need help with direction in areas where you lack knowledge and experience. Okay, so we'll chat about the brand's architecture. Every brand needs to understand the architecture of their business model, a framework, so to speak, for what they do and how they do it. When you are getting started, what happens when, the name of your brand, for example, the domain isn't available? What do? Well, that happened to us, which is why I say make sure you figure out all this stuff in the pre-planning phase. We had to use a variation of our brand name at first and get on a waiting list to buy the Have Some Fun Today domain later, which eventually we had the opportunity to do about a year later, and we were very lucky that we even had the opportunity and that it cost us less than $2,000, which sometimes these situations, the domains you're just not able to get them at all. It's just so much easier and cleaner to set up right from the start. The next step was applying for trademarks to protect our biggest asset, the idea and the slogan. Now you can do this yourself online, which of course I did, or you can go through a lawyer, which in our case, later on, I switched over to using a lawyer. I really recommend using a lawyer over doing a lot of these things yourself, if you can. Not everybody can, so. Okay, the platforms you choose. If you are selling a product or service, I would recommend Shopify as a very integrative platform that most businesses find easy to use and customize. Shopify has all kinds of plug-in apps that help you ship your products, return them, review them, connect to shoppable posts, connect to influencers and affiliates, and so on. There's probably a plug-in for almost anything you would need to do with your website through Shopify. It is a virtual ecosystem for e-commerce brands. My experience selling through Shopify has been really positive. And with all the actual problems you will be dealing with, it's nice to know that the platform itself is very solid and most issues that could come up can be worked through quite easily. The other platform that you should also select wisely is where you host your domain. Now, I have been working with GoDaddy since day one for all of the websites I have created, and they too offer great service and excellent security for my data. Another unsexy topic is your back end. Don't fall into the trap that your idea alone will be strong enough to ensure success. I strongly recommend finding a really good IT person, or if you happen to be a great IT person, good for you, coder or development team to help you start off right. It will save you, again, time and money in the long run and give you the right tools to build with. The back end of your business really needs to be just as pristinely organized as the consumer-facing product is. And it will serve you well to think it through from the beginning by investing wisely in your back end setup. Having to go back and make sense of certain vital foundations that you didn't think would be that important at first can be really disruptive to your process and can make you lose focus and even morale at critical points along the development of your business. Okay, so you're all set up, your website works, looks great, your social media is churning out content, and now what? You don't just sit back and wait for orders to come piling in. Now you've got to figure out how to sell what you're selling. And I get inundated daily with pitches from marketing teams on how they are going to help me get better ROAS, which is return on advertising spend. Everybody promises the same thing, so it can be really hard to determine which one to choose or if you should just do it on your own, in your own way. And for the entire 8+ years of having my brand, I hardly ever advertised on social media other than boosting posts. I have largely relied on a grassroots approach to my brand, with me doing all the social media posts and trying to tell the brand story as authentically as I can. As a founder, you are the one telling the story. Because the story of Have Some Fun Today is such a personal one, it makes the most sense for me to be the one telling it. Eventually, the story will become part of the company culture. And I think it's a really great idea to learn about other successful founders and to hear their stories. For me, it was learning about founders such as Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx, and what she did to get into some of the biggest stores in the country. Or Diane von Furstenberg, the inventor of the wrap dress, and what she had to go through in her era. Or even the legendary Phil Knight, and how many years it took for Nike to be profitable. In every bio, I learned how these leaders had to dig deep, make focused decisions about not only their business, but also how they spent their time and energy, and even who they surrounded themselves with. All this is integrated and important for you as a founder. Who you are as a person drives your business and your team. Every great business has a strong leader at the helm. So take your life and all its aspects into account as a breeding ground for balance, nourishment, and growth. Your team is so important. Whether you need to gather a large team or a smaller group to help you launch, it's important to find the right fit. When I first started, all I did was see who was around me that had the following characteristics: trustworthy, reliable, and skills that I needed. And you don't have to bring all collaborators for your team on as employees or partners. You can easily get team members who do subcontract work to get started. Just make sure they are bringing to the table what you need and are team players that make life easier. Drama in a startup is a non-negotiable. Okay. Company culture. Defining your company culture is also a very important aspect of formulating your brand and startup. What is company culture anyway? It is a shared set of values, practices, goals, and attitudes that make up a corporation. Why is this important to define early on? Company culture is important to define early on so that there is a consistent expectation of what you and your company stand for. And this will help attract like-minded people to your company as employees, partners, investors, and customers. Have awareness early on about what you and your company stand for. Resilience. To me, this is so important. And so many times over my journey, I have had to be really grateful for my resilience. Every founder needs to be resilient. Having resilience means one is able to recover quickly from adversity and difficult situations. As founders, we experience difficulties a large percentage of the time in one way or another. It could be a small problem, it could be a production problem, it could be a shipping problem. It can be so many things, and they happen all the time. It's how you handle it. So startups are riddled with adversity, uncertain situations, and stress. So to move into a startup situation takes someone with broad shoulders and a good amount of grit and mental strength. To be resilient, you need a healthy and optimistic attitude that comes from inside yourself. But a supportive network of peers, friends, and mentors can help to bolster you and help you get past difficult situations as well. Some pro tips for improving your capacity for resilience. Get the right amount of sleep, nutrition, and exercise. Having some balance in your life outside of work. And having a supportive network of professional and personal relationships can help you navigate the ups and downs of startup life. So some key points to remember. Define your what, your why, and your how. Go through the startup checklist and define all the key elements of creating a startup that relates to you. Create your overall business plan. And remember that the way you live is actually vitally important to the success and health of your business. If you feel that you need to make some lifestyle changes, make them before you go into a startup. Startup life demands that you are focused on your goals, and it will take every shred of energy and resources you have. Some of you here today may think, wow, that sounds like a little bit too much of a commitment for me. And honestly, if you were thinking that, then startup life probably isn't for you, at least not yet. I remember back when I was first getting started and how so many people would tell me I was wasting my time, that it would be too hard, and that I wouldn't make any money. And of course, I didn't listen to any of them. I went ahead with what I believed in, as you should. Always follow your gut. Every time I get weary, I think about why I am doing this. My why is the single most important thing that keeps me able to move forward, even when I'm exhausted or demoralized or uncertain. I'm going to read a quote because this was my father's, favorite quote. I remember sitting in his office years ago when he read this to me. I may cry. It is by Theodore Roosevelt, and many of you may have heard this quote. It is called "The Man in the Arena." It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbled, or where the doer of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes short again and again, who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who, at the worst, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. I'm going to wrap up by letting you know that the world needs your dreams. We need people who are dreaming of solutions to make the world a better place and make them happen. And how lucky are we to be living in an era where we can create companies easier now than ever before. I hope the presentation I've created today will help give you a good reference point for whatever company or venture you are thinking about creating. I thank you for your attention, and I am happy to open the floor for any questions. Thank you. So, does anybody have any questions? Yes. So the question is, what is my next step going to be? That's a great question. Well, we are in the process of fundraising because we need money. And we are in the process of speaking with various entities in marketing. We want to go to some big people who can give us some money, help us massage our message. We feel personally, I don't know if any of you guys have looked at our website, but it reads fashion, but we are more than a fashion brand. We are trying to bring meaning to fashion and use fashion as a platform for positive change. So we feel that message is really getting not articulated well enough in our website. And so we need to find a very, very, very good creative agency that can help me, because I've really been the one doing all this by myself. So that's our next step, finding money to really bring our brand to the next level. Yes? It's a great question. So can you just say that a little louder so I can get the whole question correct? Okay. Yes. That's part of it. It's not only. Okay, so the question is, how do I deal with competition in the apparel industry? And is that basically the question? Well, that's a great question. You know, when I started this brand, honestly, I didn't think it was going to become a big thing. That wasn't so in hindsight, I didn't think I was creating a startup. I thought I was creating a small brand that was going to sit on Etsy. You know, so I think that's probably why I didn't do all these things that I've now shared with you is what you should do, because I didn't do any of them, because I didn't have that vision for the brand in that way. So right away, the brand didn't go on Etsy. It went onto a website, and we started promoting it as a fashion brand. And you know, things have been really good, but COVID really changed a lot for so many companies. And I think when stores had to close, that caused a lot of change in the fashion industry. And so when stores closed, all the known brands that we're so familiar with, that really affected them clearly, because nobody was shopping in stores. Everybody was shopping online. And so it really turned the fashion world on its heels, no pun intended, of wanting to be online. So that is where it upped the ante for the competition, because we're a really small brand and we don't have the advertising dollars to compete with the biggest fashion companies in the world. So initially, being mostly, you know, seen on social media initially, back in 2015, up until 2020, it was easy for us to get eyes on the brand, because social media was just such an amazing way to do that without having millions of dollars in back of you. And now, since, you know, that has changed and everybody is now on social media, even, you know, A-list actors are on social media, it's gotten very competitive. So we have to get more creative, and we have to get more innovative, and we need to really do things that we didn't think we would have to do, you know? And like for me as a founder who's older than people who traditionally use TikTok, for example, that's a hard switch to make. You know, I was used to posting very lovely, fashionable, and chic posts on, you know, other forms of social media. But, you know, TikTok and other video formats are really taking over, and that's just one example of where you have to get really good at reaching a multitude of audiences, because we don't have really a demographic, we have a psychographic. You know, our brand is for, you know, the 15-year-old girl and the 80-year-old woman. It's about people who want to experience more happiness. And that's like taking your supplement in the morning, or going to an exercise class, or meditating in the morning. That's how I view what I'm doing with Have Some Fun Today. It's providing a material object that brings having fun into your awareness. So.
How do you really align your company's message with how people use certain message that you want to promote? What kind of activities do you do, or like what kind of involvement do you get from the community to kind of align people's perception of you to your actual message?
It's a great question. How do I align people? How do I align? Can you repeat that again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, like so your company's message kind of, you know, kind of spreading positivity.
Yeah.
Taking care of yourself, having fun today. So how do you get people to really look at your brand now? On one of your slides, you mentioned that you try to spread joy and positivity in the community.
Okay. How do I spread joy and positivity in the community through my brand? Well, that's a great question. There are many ways we do that, actually. We are charity aligned with almost any charity, actually, that, you know, approaches me to donate or to talk. it's a yes, hands down all the time. The other thing that, an example of something that has happened very recently, a woman reached out to me. She's a customer of the brand, and she told me in a very short phone call that, and she's in her 40s, she told me that she was diagnosed with cancer, lung cancer. And she came to me because she felt that she didn't want to, let the energy of that diagnosis pull her down. She believes in the power of positivity, and she believes that Have Some Fun Today speaks to that. So she wanted to know if I could help her get t-shirts in time for her to gather her supporters that are going to help support her going to get part of her lung removed. And, it's interesting because right before that phone call, I had been thinking and talking to my assistant and my team about the fact that we need to get out there and do more stuff. We need to go out and do good because our mission is to make people smile. So whether it's serving, lunch at a soup kitchen, and we're wearing our Have Some Fun Today as representatives of this message, that's something an example of something we're looking to do. And so it was so interesting that we were discussing, that we were going to start doing these initiatives on a monthly basis, and this girl calls me. And I said, well, we want to help you. And, to your group, first of all, we're going to give you a 50% discount so that you can get this stuff quickly, and there's no barrier for someone to say, oh, I can't afford that. So we did that for her, and we were able to get this together very quickly. And within less than a week, she had an event for her to support her in her surgery that she was going to have. And she had like 50 women all wearing Have Some Fun Today. And she actually went into her surgery then the next day wearing the brand with all that positive energy behind her. And to me, that's what the brand's about. It's about using something positive, whether you're wearing a t-shirt or a hat, to imbue that energy into yourself and to the people that you come into contact with. Yes, Matthew.
Steph, I have a virtual question from one of our guests. How does a CEO know when it's time to scale up their company?
In terms of employees?
I think they may be talking about general growth. What are some of the key indicators that you look for if you're thinking about scaling?
Well, it's a kind of a hard question, but I guess it's a good question. I know, I feel like it comes naturally, like, honestly, this is like a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week job. So I'm not here to sugarcoat anything because it's really hard. And I'm just going to say that I'm really impressed that any person in college today feels ready to do something like this. And I applaud you, and I will cheer for you. And I'm honestly, feel free to connect with me if there's anything I can do for any of you guys. So I think it's something that comes naturally because I'm constantly looking at my analytics. I am like addicted to looking at my analytics. I'm constantly talking to people and kind of watching where things are going in the world. We have so many crazy things that have been going on in this world in the past couple of years alone. Watching what people are responding to in our brand and responding to criticism and seeing where things aren't working well. And I think when you are just, really like living, how am I growing this brand? It's just a natural progression for you to see where you need to add things or places you need to go in terms of like, I know that I gotta produce videos now that are relevant. That's an area that I have to scale up. We know that we have to scale up our website and how we can, when someone clicks on our website, they get the sense that it's just not like a bunch of pretty bags and girls and hats and t-shirts. There's something more there. And so It's always seems apparent to me every day, all the stuff that we have to continue to do. Hi. Yes, Matthew.
Another question from a different guest. What are the difficulties that you have faced trying to find capital or funding for your business?
Okay, that's a great question. Well, we don't have any funding yet. This is a self-funded company to date. I really don't want to get VC funding. I've been kind of warned about that quite often, and I would prefer to find private funding. So that is kind of the direction we're going in. Not to say that down the road we will raise money in a different way, but for now we want to keep this as a family business because it's so closely related to my father's legacy. Yes.
A follow-up question from online. What kind of data sets do you look at when you're looking at your business analytics in terms of building and growing your customer base?
We are looking at the demographics that are buying our product, for one. It's a little challenging, like I said, because our product is really, it's not like we're not targeting a Gen Z or Gen Millennials or, you know, any other specific demographic. We're really targeting people who want to be happy. So that's a little challenging because we have to then direct our marketing very segmented to the different segments. And that is a tricky thing to do. That's all I got for that answer. Yes. Hi.
Stephanie, thank you so much for coming and sharing your story with us. I'm Ann Hoag, and I'm one of the entrepreneurship.
Okay, great.
So my question is for other professors. What do you wish you had learned in college, reflecting on experiences in the last decade? What should we be teaching kids?
Well, God, things were so different back in the 80s. I think you guys, the professors that I had here, I think everyone did a great job. But I guess today, if I were a student and I were thinking of being an entrepreneur in the way that I am, you know, I think that social media is a skill that, you know, the young people are acing and older people are struggling with, you know, because it comes so easily to people to know how to, the technology for these things is not easy. Like for me, I'm on TikTok trying to, first of all, it's hard for me to even watch TikTok. I'm starting to get better at it because I'm finding people I enjoy watching, but just the technology around doing that, it sounds silly to say that there should be a course on how to work through these apps that are tech-based. That's how people are seeing brands today. And I have no experience with that. So if there was a way to, I mean, maybe you don't even need to teach that because they do it just by living, you know. I mean, I don't think that there was anything really different that I would say to do. I mean, my experience here taught me everything I needed to know, and number one was confidence. So I think if you are confident and you believe in your gut, I mean, there are things you can't really teach in a classroom. You can? Okay, I mean, I think I just naturally had that, so I don't know how you would teach that. But I think confidence, I think trusting your gut and knowing how to connect to that is so important. And really believing, I think we limit ourselves. I think we're so focused on memorizing things in books rather than really cultivating all of our unique characteristics. And so I believe in a more, I don't know, esoteric kind of knowledge base. So I think if that would be helpful to entrepreneurs, I would think. Well, to that point, I wish I was better at accounting because, that is something that is so important to any startup and certainly important to my startup and is something that I personally am not very good at. So accounting would be, I say all the time, I wish I could do my own accounting. Also technical computer skills. Like when I went to college, we didn't even have laptops. So, these are things that I had to teach myself basically. So yeah, technology, things that you use like, being able to be great with technology, accounting, obviously they are wonderful things that I wish I had learned.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks again.
Absolutely. Yes. Okay, so his question was how our brand was able to connect with celebrities. So we were very lucky. I mean, because we have never paid any celebrity for posting, and we couldn't afford that for sure. There were many different ways, and so for anyone who's looking to know how to do that, I'm the kind of person that asks a lot of questions, and if I don't know something, I will contact someone who I don't know and reach out to them and just ask them. So I think having a good network and being able to just ask people, how did you do that? That was what opened the door for me to get to some celebrities. And so one of the ways we connected with a woman who her business is celebrity gift bags. So we would basically we would pay her a fee, we would send her product, she would put it in gift bags, deliver it to certain celebrities that she had a relationship with. And there's no guarantee, you could spend $2,000 to $5,000 on this process and not have anybody wear your product. We were very lucky several of the times that we did that exchange with her. We had, some major celebrities wearing the stuff, and we were just lucky, There have been plenty of times when we've done it and nobody's done it. Halle Berry turns out really likes our brand. So we love Halle Berry too. And the other way you can do that is you can just send it directly to them. It's a shot in the dark again, but sometimes they wear it and they post about it. And I think that some of that stuff is I think the time for that to really happen is getting less and less because, things change and they evolve. And, I think a lot of celebrities don't want to do that anymore. So I don't know how much more of that we're really going to see unless someone's paying a celebrity a lot of money. So I hope that answers your question. And I'd be happy to share that stuff with anybody. Yes. Hi. Yeah. Well, actually, we have a really cool thing. So his question was, how do we do events in the community, basically? One of the things that I daydream a lot. I believe in daydreaming. I think daydreaming is a great way to hone your creativity. And I am also an artist. I probably mentioned that. And so I had this vision. I always get these visions. And we have this bag called the Elsie bag. Actually, this is the exact bag. So this is a bag I designed, I named it after my grandmother, Elsie. So the story is, we got this production in, and I found out very early on that a panel on this bag was discolored with wear. And I was like freaking out. This is one of the many problems that you will have as a founder. You'll have production problems. And so we had to have our manufacturer come in. They looked at it. They took all the bags off of our inventory, and they discounted us the cost of making these. So now I have like 40 of these bags. And so I had this idea, wouldn't it be cool if we use this bag and I use it as a canvas to paint on? Now there also happens to be the Kusama Louis Vuitton collaboration right now where they're painting polka dots on the Louis Vuitton bags. I had that idea probably around the same time as I started doing that. So we are actually hosting an event in Manhattan in May, and we have asked different artists in New York, actually there's one coming from Sweden. We're painting these bags, and we are going to auction them at an event, and the proceeds are going to go to a mental health organization in Manhattan. Because I believe very much in, you know, your mental wellness. Obviously, I feel all this ties into wellness, into, you know, mental health awareness. And so that's an example of an event we are creating. We are working on that. So he asked also if we are working on sponsorship. So we have a PR team in New York, and they are kind of spearheading all the logistics. And so they are contacting the mental health organizations and just talking to different people who might help sponsor, you know, the place we're going to have it, any other parts of the event itself, you know, so. Anybody else? Yes?
So, as an entrepreneur, we help, and you mentioned that. So when you're just getting started, do you have any advice for finding that help, like finding the right ideas?
Yeah. Well, so your question was in the beginning, either you need help doing lots of things, and how did I do that? I think for me, you know, I was living in a small community. I live in Wyomissing, Pennsylvania, and I'm in between Wyomissing and New York City. It's kind of where I am. And, you know, being a little bit older, I had a lot of friends who I knew what they could do. I knew what their skill set was. So when this was kind of brewing in me after my dad passed away, and I knew I wanted to do this, I started thinking about all my friends, people around me, who I could say, hey, do you want to help me do this? And so that's kind of how I did it. You know, I went to people who I knew were good at graphics, because I didn't know how to do graphics on a computer. When I went to Parsons, we didn't have computers. So I'm an artist. I would draw, I would drape, you know, things with our hands. So technology is not my strong suit. So just asking, you know, asking and putting the word out. I mean, a lot of times I will even put out on social media where I need help. And I get helpful responses. So just ask for help. Anybody else? Yes. No, we ship internationally. That's interesting. I actually spoke at an international e-commerce conference last year, and there's a lot of complicated things to deal with when you really go on that level. We're kind of keeping it very simple. I mean, I know there are people who like have their website in different languages, for example, so that they can speak to the different places around the world. I know on Shopify, there is a global markets, there's a way to appeal to a global market. And I haven't we've gotten accepted to be part of that, but we haven't gotten into that yet. We're kind of holding out to do that. But we sell globally, so they kind of work it out on Shopify. I don't have to really do much. That's the beauty of Shopify. I mean, they really do a lot of things for you that would be hard for an average person to do. Looks like we're wrapping up. Thank you.